Sleep paralysis, a terrifying condition, a liminal state where wakefulness collides with the world of dreams. Your mind awakens, your senses return, but your body remains frozen, a prisoner in your own flesh. This terrifying in-between state, a waking nightmare, is fertile ground for our darkest fears to manifest. Tonight we delve into two such tales, two chilling accounts of sleep paralysis, where the line between reality and nightmare blurs, leaving you questioning what is real and what lurks in the shadows of your mind. These are not mere stories, dear reader, but glimpses into the darkest corners of human experience, where terror reigns and escape seems impossible. Prepare yourself, for what you are about to read may linger long after you turn the final page. The first story takes us to a small, cramped apartment in the heart of a bustling city. Imagine, if you will, a young woman named Sarah, exhausted after a long day, slipping into a restless sleep. Her bedroom, small and cluttered, is shrouded in darkness, the only light emanating from the street lamps below, casting long, dancing shadows on the walls. The air is thick with the oppressive heat of a summer night, the silence broken only by the distant wail of sirens and the hum of traffic. Unbeknownst to Sarah, as she sleeps, a presence is stirring in the shadows of her room, a malevolent entity drawn to her vulnerability. Sarah wakes with a start, her heart pounding in her chest. She feels a weight on her chest, a suffocating pressure that makes it difficult to breathe. Panic surges through her as she realizes she cannot move, her limbs heavy and unresponsive. She tries to scream, but no sound escapes her lips, her voice trapped in her throat. Then she sees it. A dark, indistinct shape coalescing in the shadows at the foot of her bed. It is a slow, agonizing process, like ink bleeding into water, the shape shifting and swirling, defying definition. Fear, cold and paralyzing, grips Sarah's heart as she watches the shadow take form. The figure solidifies, taking on a vaguely humanoid form, tall and gaunt, its features obscured by the darkness. It is then that Sarah notices its eyes, two glowing embers that pierce the gloom, burning into her soul. "You cannot hide," a voice rasps, seemingly from within Sarah's own mind. The voice is cold and ancient, filled with malice and an insatiable hunger. "You are mine now." Terror threatens to consume Sarah as the figure crawls closer, its long skeletal fingers reaching out towards her. Section 5, a desperate struggle trapped in fear.
I struggle against the invisible bonds holding me captive, my mind screaming for my body to respond. I try to break free, to scream, to do anything to escape the clutches of the terrifying entity. But my efforts are futile, my body refusing to obey my commands. The creature leans closer, its putrid breath washing over my face. I can feel its icy fingers brush against my skin, sending a fresh wave of terror through me. Just as the creature opens its mouth, revealing rows of jagged teeth, I let out a blood-curdling scream as I finally break free from the grip of sleep paralysis.
Section 6, the old house. A new nightmare begins. Our second tale takes us to a crumbling Victorian mansion, perched precariously on a windswept cliff overlooking the sea. This house, with its broken windows and sagging roof, has stood the test of time, but not without bearing the scars of its haunted past. Picture, if you will, a young man named Ethan inheriting this house from a distant relative. Ethan, a curious and adventurous soul, is both thrilled and apprehensive about his new possession. He is filled with a sense of excitement and trepidation as he steps through the threshold, unaware of the horrors that await him. The old wooden door creaks open, and he takes his first step into the unknown. The air inside is heavy with the scent of decay, and the silence is deafening, broken only by the creaking of the floorboards beneath his feet. Dust particles dance in the dim light, adding to the eerie atmosphere. As Ethan explores the dusty rooms, he can't shake the feeling that he is not alone. Every shadow seems to move, and every gust of wind sounds like a whisper, that something unseen is watching him from the shadows. The feeling of being watched grows stronger with each passing moment, making his heart race.
"I can't shake the feeling that I'm not alone," Ethan thinks to himself, his voice barely a whisper in the vast emptiness of the mansion. That something unseen is watching me from the shadows. His mind races with possibilities, each more terrifying than the last. Is it a ghost, a spirit, or something far more sinister lurking in the darkness?
Night falls, and as Ethan lays down to sleep in a dusty four-poster bed, he feels an unsettling chill in the air. The room, filled with shadows and the scent of old wood, seems to close in around him. He hears the first whisper. It is a faint, indistinct murmur just at the edge of hearing. The sound is so soft, it could almost be his imagination.
It's just the wind. It's just the wind. He repeats to himself, his voice trembling as he tries to convince himself of this simple explanation.
He dismisses it as the wind whistling through the old house's many cracks and crevices. The house, with its creaking floors and groaning walls, has always been full of strange noises. But as the night wears on, the whispers grow louder, more insistent, seeming to come from the very walls themselves. They echo in the dark, filling the room with an eerie presence. He hears his name called, voices speaking in languages he doesn't understand. The whispers are no longer just sounds. They are voices with intent, with purpose. The room grows cold, the temperature plummeting despite the summer night. His breath becomes visible in the frigid air, adding to the surreal and terrifying atmosphere.
What is happening? This can't be real, he mutters to himself, his mind struggling to grasp the reality of the situation.
Ethan pulls the covers tight around himself, his heart pounding in his chest, his body trembling with fear. The once comforting bed now feels like a trap. His mind races as he tries to rationalize the increasingly disturbing events. Every creak, every whisper, every cold draft feels like a personal attack on his sanity. The line between reality and nightmare blurs, leaving him questioning everything he thought he knew. Suddenly, Ethan wakes from a fitful sleep. He feels the familiar weight on his chest, the suffocating pressure that steals his breath. He tries to move, to cry out, but his body refuses to respond. He is trapped, his mind screaming as his body lays frozen in fear.
No, I can't move. Why can't I move?
Then he sees it, a reflection in the antique mirror across the room. It is not his own. A gaunt skeletal figure with long, sharp claws stands in the doorway, its eyes two black pits boring into his soul. A silent scream builds in Ethan's throat, but no sound emerges.
Oh my God, what is that?
The figure in the mirror begins to move towards him, gliding silently across the room. Its movements are unnaturally smooth, almost as if it is floating rather than walking. The air grows colder with each inch it covers, and Ethan can feel the chill seeping into his bones. Ethan tries to break free, to escape the horrifying apparition, but the paralysis holds him fast. His muscles refuse to obey his desperate commands, leaving him a prisoner in his own body. He can feel his heart pounding in his chest, each beat a frantic drum of terror. As the figure reaches the foot of his bed, it leans down, its skeletal face inches from his own. The hollow eye sockets seem to bore into his soul, and the stench of decay fills his nostrils. Ethan's breath catches in his throat, and he can feel the icy fingers of fear tightening around his heart.
Please, someone help me. His voice is barely a whisper, choked by the overwhelming terror that grips him. He knows deep down that no one can hear him, that he is utterly alone in this nightmare.
Ethan screams, a silent, desperate plea for help that goes unanswered. The sound is swallowed by the oppressive darkness, leaving him with nothing but the echo of his own despair. He can feel the tears streaming down his face, but they bring no relief from the horror that surrounds him. He squeezes his eyes shut, willing himself to wake up, to escape the nightmare. He prays that this is just a figment of his imagination, a cruel trick of his mind. But deep down, he knows that this is all too real. But when he finally opens his eyes, the figure is still there, its skeletal hand reaching out, its touch sending a jolt of icy terror through his body. The cold seeps into his very soul, and he can feel his strength ebbing away with each passing second. Ethan realizes with chilling certainty that this is no dream but his terrifying new reality. The weight of this realization crashes down on him, and he feels a hopelessness unlike anything he has ever known.
This can't be happening. It's real. It's all real. His voice trembles with the weight of his fear, and he can feel the last vestiges of his sanity slipping away. The nightmare has become his world, and there is no escape.
These are just two tales of the countless encounters with sleep paralysis, a chilling reminder that sometimes our greatest fears lie not in the world around us, but within the depths of our own minds. The victims of these terrifying episodes are left with a lingering sense of dread, forever haunted by the chilling knowledge that the line between reality and nightmare is frighteningly thin. So tonight, as you close your eyes and drift off to sleep, remember the stories of Sarah and Ethan. Remember that in the realm of sleep paralysis, nothing is impossible, and the monsters under your bed may be more real than you ever dared to imagine.